Now, the flooding crisis, of course, dominates our show again this morning. Very shortly, we'll be getting an update on the situation at Wagga Wagga in southern New South Wales, where the Murrumbidgee River is expected to peak at 10.9 metres at midday today. But the situation is also still very serious in northern Victoria, from where we're joined by Guy Stainer in the town of Nathalia. Guy, good morning. What is the situation there this morning?
Well, good morning, Michael. It's first light here, and it's a little bit like the calm before the storm, although, of course, we've had enough storms through much of eastern Australia at the moment. But what is happening here is that there's this amazing temporary levee bank that's being created, and just to the right of me here, next to the Broken Creek, which is swelling as we speak and moving a little bit faster than yesterday, is this aluminium wall that's been created, and it's been reinforced with this plastic, and sandbags are being lined and will continue to be built up today as the Army and volunteers try to create a barrier against the rising floodwaters from the Broken Creek. Now, this particular structure was purchased after floods here in 1993. It's made by a German company, and the local council bought it after the 93 floods. This is the first time they've had to use it, and everyone's hopeful, with their fingers crossed, that it will hold. It's got rubber reinforcing between each of the slats, and they say that will provide a waterproof barrier. And apparently it has been very effective with flood mitigation in Germany along the Danube River and also in Holland. So locals have their fingers crossed that when the Broken Creek really starts to flood here around Nathalia on Wednesday and Thursday, that this will be the thing that keeps many and most of the homes in Nathalia dry. It
looks very effective. Now stay right there, Guy, because we'll bring into the conversation now Siobhan Hinu, our reporter at Wagga Wagga in New South Wales. Siobhan, good morning again. A fairly anxious night for a lot of residents in that city.
Absolutely. As the sun rises above Wagga Wagga, it's one of 5 natural disaster zones that have been South Wales Government overnight. The others are Forbes, Lockhart, Parkes and Tumut. Now, in Wagga there was a surprise evacuation notice given at about 9 p.m. last night, and that meant that 8,000 people in central Wagga, the CBD areas and surrounding residences and business properties had to move immediately to higher ground. So as you can imagine, it was a very frantic operation moving that amount of people, and the time limit they were given was 6 a.m. They were told that they before sunrise. That's because the Murrumbidgee River is steadily rising. Right now it's at about 10.3 metres and expected to peak at 10.9 metres at about midday today. Now at that level, the town's...
And we seem to have lost...
of Wagga.
Yeah, go on, Siobhan.
It's not the only area of Wagga that's in strife today. North Wagga was evacuated a day beforehand, but there were a couple of stragglers who decided to stay behind in that very low-lying area. And last night, 10 rescues had to be performed by the SES from roofs and cars in that very dangerous zone. At the moment, the 8,000 residents that have been evacuated have been situated in 4 schools at higher ground, and it's been a double blow for those people who earlier evacuated from North Wagga. In fact, one of the evacuation centres they were originally sent to had to be evacuated last night. So when you evacuate an evacuation centre in the middle of town, that causes incredible extra stress to those people who are forced to move yet again.
Indeed it would, and a lot of the residents would have been quite shocked at this late night evacuation call. How are they holding up this morning?
Absolutely. Look, it's been an amazing sunny day yesterday, and there was almost a picnic atmosphere as people watched the river rise. I think there was a sense of calm that we now know it was not really warranted for people in those CBD city central areas. Many motels as well, which were already home to evacuees, had to be moved at very short notice. We had people come round to sandbag our motel at 2 a.m. We were forced to get out and spent the night in the car along with other people.
Siobhan Hinu, our link there is breaking up, but let's go back to you for the time being. Guy Stainer in Nathalia in Victoria. What is the feeling amongst residents there as they undergo this undoubtedly very nervous wait ahead of the expected peak later in the week there?
Well, the amazing thing here is that the land is so flat, the water moves so slowly. essentially this will be the water that's coming from Numurkah, which is currently flooded. Certainly the southern parts of the town are badly flooded, but it's going to take, the best part of 4 days to reach here. Numurkah was flooded on Saturday night and through Sunday morning, but the waters, it's only 20 kilometres away to Numurkah, but the Broken Creek flows in so many different directions. The creek would actually flow for well over 100 kilometres, winding north and south, and it's going to take 4 days for the water to get here. That has pros and cons. It's a blessing that it means that the preparations are well underway and people can be as best prepared as possible for the floodwaters that are going to hit here. And there'll be more volunteers back here today, again reinforcing this wall. The downside is that when the floods do arrive, they take forever to disappear. And talking to people that lived through the '93 floods, they're expecting that floodwaters will be around their properties for up to 9 or 10 days before they can actually get on with the clean-up afterwards. So, there are pros and cons with this very slow-moving water here on such flat land.
Have people been increasingly heeding those warnings and getting out of their properties ahead of this expected peak?
There are no immediate concerns for evacuations or the like. The waters here, because they are so slow moving, they're not particularly dangerous. It's more just a matter of the concern about what damage can be done and people putting their best foot forward to try and mitigate the extent of the flooding here in Nathalia.
Guy Stainer at Nathalia, thank you very much for the update this morning.